How's everybody doing today? This is Chopping It Up Hardcore with Hal Capone, discussion number 99. Today my special guest is Scott Monaghan from the criminally underrated band Enkephalin. He was also in the band Hamilton in the late 90s. Super rad band. Super rad band. I feel like everybody knows Hamilton. He was also in Burroughs, Here's Collective, Disappearances, and he's got a new band. Oh, actually, Letters in Binary. So dope. Hold on, Scott. I'll grab you right now.
Uh-oh. There we go.
There we go. Perfect.
What's going on,
Not
man?
much. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Perfect. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to do this. I know Sundays people are super busy. I know you got some things to do later on, so I want to thank you so much. It's been a long time since me and you have seen each other. It's over 20 years that we played that show together in Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So it was good reaching out, and I'm glad that you came on and we could have a chat about, the old times and new times coming up.
Cool. Yeah, no worries.
Usually, like when I first start off these discussions, I always ask, what were you listening to as a kid, and then what kind of transitioned you into listening to punk and hardcore music?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was actually thinking about this today, and just like I feel like I started listening to music pretty young. I remember like being in like kindergarten and listening to like Def Leppard and like Pour Some Sugar on Me, and I remember I always liked kind of like heavier stuff. I remember listening to Michael Jackson, and like Beat It was always like really cool because it was like distorted guitars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like by the time I was 12, I started skateboarding, and that's when I started listening to like Dinosaur Jr. and Operation Ivy and Bad Religion and like Metallica and like Pearl Jam, like Nirvana, like grunge stuff that was all happening in 1992.
Yeah.
So like that was kind of I guess my introduction was like Operation Ivy kind of got me into punk, and then kind of from there, like by the time I was like 15, I was listening to like more heavy stuff, and then was kind of introduced to like I guess like screamo, like Midwest mid 90s screamo, and like really liked that. I remember like one of the big transition bands for me was like Lifetime, because they were like still pretty punk, but like also had a little bit of like that like hardcore flavor too.
Yeah.
So that was like a big like transition band for me too. And then from there it was just like more like the early like I mean like Guilt I listened to a lot when I was a kid. When I was like 15, 16. And then it was a lot of just like local Michigan like hardcore bands, like bands that like my friends were and stuff like that. So it was like Wallside. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but like Wallside and like Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Like I still love Ottawa. Like
so
I just got like the repress of the split. I still listen to it all the time.
Yeah, Ottawa is so rad. I love Ottawa.
Yeah.
Was Jihad wasn't from there? Or were they from Minnesota? Were they from up around Michigan?
Yeah, they're from Kalamazoo.
Yeah, that's what I
So Kalamazoo was like a couple hours west of Detroit.
Yeah.
I was from the Detroit area.
Now, when you started getting into that, were you also interested in playing an instrument? Like, I know you play guitar and drums. I mean, you do it all, actually. So
yeah.
What was like the first thing that you kind of got into playing-wise?
So when I started playing guitar when I was 12. So like I kind of 12 was I feel like my like big like transition year, like 12, 13, because I was like I played a lot of sports when I was a kid, and then I started skating. Was like I'm done with sports. I just want to like skate, and then skating kind of brought me into music, and I started playing guitar. So I played guitar first. I started when I was 12, and then I started playing drums. My dad played drums, so there's always obviously a drum set in the house, and like he gave me my first guitar. It's the guitar that I still play. Like I played it last night.
Oh, no
like
kidding.
it's the best guitar. Yeah. It's like a 78 Ibanez ST100.
Nice.
That guitar is my jam. But So yeah, then I started playing. I like sat behind his drums when I was like 16, because like I was friends with Marty, who played in Hamilton, and like he played guitar and I played guitar, but we wanted to start a band, and I was like, well, let me try my dad's drums. And this was when I was like 16, I think. And so like I don't know, they came pretty naturally to me. So then, yeah, so when I was like 16, I started playing drums. So 12 guitar and 16 drums.
Now, you were a teenager when you played in Hamilton, correct?
Yeah. Marty and I started that band. It was like 96, I think, 96, 97. So I was like 16.
Yeah. That band, I mean, if anybody hasn't heard that band, I feel like everybody's heard of Hamilton, though. It's like, it was kind of like, you know, in that late 90s, that was what hardcore bands were doing. They were kind of getting that little chaotic-y sound to it, you know what I mean? And Hamilton is right in there with that, like, more heavy than, like, the regular hardcore that was kind of happening in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And now there's like a discography of Hamilton out, correct?
Yeah. Charlie did that maybe like a year ago, and he sent me one of them. I wasn't in the band until the end, but I was in the band for the first couple years, and then they wanted to like be more serious about it or something like that. They gave me the boot, and they had another guy, Brian, who's a good dude. He played drums for them until the end.
Yeah, but the majority of those songs are created by you and somebody else, right? Basically, I mean.
Yeah, I mean it was like, I think in the beginning, I wrote some of those songs, and then it ended up being like Marty and Charlie kind of wrote most of the stuff after like that first chunk of songs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it was like we did. See, how do we do it? It was like the first chunk of songs I did, the second chunk of songs I did, and then I want to say I don't think they did another like full length thing. I think they did like a song for a comp, and then like maybe like a split 7. I don't know. After that, I don't really know exactly what they did.
Yeah. So what band came after Hamilton? Enkephalin didn't start after that, did it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it did. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I mean, since I got like kicked out of Hamilton, that kind of sucked. like that like hurt my feelings, and so like people would ask me to be in a band. I'd be like, I don't want to be in a band. Like, yeah. So it was. So I didn't do any bands from like maybe like 98 until like 2000s for like a couple years. I didn't do any bands. I think I had like a 4-track, would like just do stuff on my own. And then Enkephalin was just like me and Dan and Danny like skated together every day. And so like on days that it would rain, we would just fart around our instruments in my parents' basement. And that's essentially how Enkephalin started. And that when that started off as like a joke. And then I think I like wrote yeah, I remember now. So it started off kind of as a joke, and I was in this other band with Marty called Gabriel, and we didn't really do much. We played like a couple shows, and then I had a song written for Gabriel, but I just wanted to see how Danny, the drummer, would handle like a quote like real song, rather than just like some like goofy thing that just had like blasting through like the whole thing. Yeah. And so I showed him the song, and that was Killbot, like Killbot Factory, and I was like, oh shit, like he can definitely handle like whatever I throw at him.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the beginning of like being like a quote like real band.
And I mean, what was the influence there? Because I mean, obviously Hamilton and Enkephalin are a little different. It's more of like a mathcore-y, like real heavy, chaotic metalcore sound. What were some of your influences there, and what were you kind of like drawing from when you started that band? Or was it just like a natural progression of just that's what you wanted to do? Because it seems like your catalog of music is just brutally crushing, amazing, you know, hardcore music. You know what I mean?
Thanks. But yeah, I think it was like, I mean, there's obviously like Dillinger Escape Plan was a big deal. Like Calculating Infinity came out like 98, and that was like a big part of like this create like super chaotic tech stuff. Like I love that stuff, but before that it was like I was like into like Christian stuff for a hot second.
Yeah.
So I was listening to like Training for Utopia was like a big band, and they were like, yeah, they were like they weren't really mathy, but they were really chaotic,
Yeah.
and I really liked all that stuff, and like Living Sacrifice
Yeah.
was heavy and like kind of teetering on the edge of like kind of mathy.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked all that stuff, and then of course Meshuggah,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, I mean, everyone knows Meshuggah and like their mathiness and craziness. So I think those were like, I think that like Dillinger, Meshuggah, and like Training for Utopia were probably like really big influences at that time,
Yeah.
like late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I was in. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was into. Have you ever heard of a band called Overcome? They weren't so like techie, but they were like a Christian band from. I think they were from Arizona.
Yeah, I remember Overcome. For one reason or another, like I remember Charlie liked Overcome. I even think Marty did too. Like I know that like Charlie went through like a Christian phase or whatever. For some reason, Overcome never for one reason or another. But yeah, I remember hearing about them.
Yeah, I thought the I thought the singer had like an amazing voice. He just had like a really heavy voice. I mean, like I said, they weren't like techie and crazy like that, but they were just kind of like a, like a Die My Will type of heavy hardcore, which like I liked too back then, as well as the Dillinger stuff.
Yeah, and I also like Zao was another big like heavy Christian band that I liked.
Yeah,
kind of in that same time.
Yeah, that split with Training for Utopia and Zao the Zao songs are amazing on that split.
Yeah. That, and I even liked, like, I still will listen to, like, Save Yourself from Hell, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That's still, like, kind of solid.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely stands up still. I wanted to ask you about the name of Enkephalin. I know in the beginning it wasn't Enkephalin. It was kind of like a play on that. Like, can you, because when I was like booking the show, I was reading the word and I was like, how the hell do you say that? I go, it's not Enkephalin. I'm like Enkephalin. Like I'm like talking to my friends and I'm like what's the name of this band? I'm like I don't get it. And I think like I reached out to you through like Viva La Vinyl or something. I don't know if it was you or Dan or somebody else in the band because I knew you guys were on tour and you guys needed a show or wanted a show and like I had that booked in April. So I just wanted to ask about the name and how it kind of changed.
Well, so Brandon, who was James's little brother, James played bass in Hamilton. He was part of our like little like skate crew. He did like vocals for one Enkephalin show along with Dan, but he came up with the name. So I think he had it in like one of his like high school like science books, and we just spelled it wrong. It wasn't like it was like one thing and then we changed it. Like we just messed up the spelling. We missed that E. There's like that one E in there.
Yeah.
And I think we started putting it like sideways, like in parentheses, because we were like, whoops, we missed a letter. so it wasn't like I said, like it wasn't like we changed the name. We fucked up and spelled it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, because I always wanted to ask that because in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it changed to the regular spelling. So I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Now, the demo what was the first thing that you guys released? It wasn't the mini CD demo, was it? Was that the first thing that was released, or was it?
Yeah.
It
was the little 3-inch one.
Which had what? Like, wasn't there like 8 songs or?
It's something like that. It was like between 8 and 10. I can't remember. I want to say maybe it was like, I want to say it was like 10. The only reason why I'm thinking it's more than 8 because I think it had that song 8s on it, and we wanted to have that 8th, and so I don't think it was the last song. So maybe it was like 9 songs.
Yeah. I thought it was like 8 to 10 songs. I used to have it. I think I bought it off you. Y'all when we played that show, but of course I lost it. And but the layout was cool. It had like a cool layout and everything for like a mini CD demo. Like it was well put together for a demo.
Yeah. Did you have one of the red ones or the brown ones?
I had a red one.
Like the red ones were like kind of like the second pressing.
was.
The first ones were brown, and they were on like paper bags. So
Oh, no kidding.
So if you had one of those, that would be like super OG.
Yeah. So the catalog of Enkephalin is, you released 2 demos. It was one EP and then the split with Phoenix Bodies. Is that like what?
So there was if I remember right, it was a 3-inch demo,
mm-hmm.
and then we had like a 3-song like EP, and that was the one with like the fabric with like spray painted Enkephalin, like half on the front, half on the back. That was like the 3-song like EP, and then we had a song on like a mutation comp.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was Real Deal. Holyfield was on.
Yeah. Yep. And then we just did the split with Phoenix Bodies. I think that might have been it.
Now, I know I was talking to you about Dave Norman being interested in doing a discography. Have you and Dan talked about that? Like having Dave like release something for everybody to. I mean, I think he would put out a rad layout. Segma Beach does like a lot of like rad stuff and puts out. It looks really, really nice with the colored vinyl and stuff like that. Is something you and Dan talk about that yet?
We briefly talked about it. I think we were both just like, hey, if someone's like interested in that, and I think Dan and I both like checked out the label's website. We're like, yeah, that seems really cool, and I think that's just kind of where it ended. I think we were like, I think that would be cool, and then we haven't we haven't really talked that much more about it. But
now have you? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I think we're very interested. I think that'd be really cool, but we haven't gone into that much, depth and talking about it. I want to talk to Jeff too, but we don't really talk to Danny anymore. Mm-hmm. He like moved away to college, and then we stopped talking. And then Dan, the bass player, it was a bunch of Dans. It was like 3 Dans, and then me and Jeff. I think I could get a whole, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's something we're interested in, but we need to like do some more planning and stuff.
Yeah. The tour that you did, was that like, how many tours did Enkephalin do? And how was that tour when you played up here in Haverhill, Massachusetts? What kind of, experiences did you have? And were you playing with any other band, kind of like a sister band that you were kind of linking up with during that tour?
Okay, I want to say we toured 3 times. It was either 2 or 3 times, because I remember the first one is where we played with Maricate a handful of times, and that's how we met like Colin and Derek.
Yeah.
And then we did the next tour was with Phoenix Bodies, and that's how we met Colin and Derek, who ended up doing Phoenix Bodies, and that's why we did split with them. So I know that there was at least 2. I want to say that we did another one, but I honestly don't. I think, yeah, because I think, well, that was you, the show Tyranny of Shaw.
Yeah,
was I talking to you about that?
Yeah, was that up around here too? Wasn't that in Boston? Was that in Boston?
That was in Florida, but it was the tour that we did with Phoenix Bodies.
Yeah.
I think that was 2003. What year was the show that you did? Was that 2002 or 1?
2002, I think. Maybe like right at the end of it was either like the very end of 2001, like, or the beginning of 2002. I think.
Yeah, because I remember it was in the winter. I remember it snowing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was just the 2 tours. I think.
Yeah. It's so random that like back in the day how you would book shows, because like I said, I think I had gotten in touch with you guys through some website. It was like, it must have been Viva La Vinyl or something like that. Yeah. And then after the show, we drove like 35 minutes to my friend's house so you guys could stay over at his house. It's just like way in New Hampshire, in the woods of New Hampshire. And then I'm not sure where you guys played after. I don't know if you were going to New York after that, but I know it was like quite a ride for you from New Hampshire after. Man,
it's so long ago. I remember the weather being really bad. I remember driving to Boston, and it was like a blizzard. I remember it took like 8 hours when it should have taken like 2.
Yeah.
So that was like somewhere around there. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I do remember the winter though. Yeah, it was such a crazy show too. I want to ask you, going back with the discography, has anybody else like approached you guys? Because like I said, like I feel that band's criminally underrated. Like not enough people talk about that band, and it's kind of hard to find something about Enkephalin on the internet. You know, there's very like, you know, you can go to YouTube and find a few releases and stuff like that. But has anybody else come and asked if they could do anything for you?
Yeah, I remember in the Letters days, this dude, Cody, I want to say was his name, from Ohio, talked about Enkephalin and was like stoked on Enkephalin and asked about doing something. And I think it just kind of never went anywhere. I think he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And we were like, yeah, that would be cool. And it just kind of like fizzled out.
Yeah.
That was like maybe like 2005, 2004. Yeah, because Letters started. Enkephalin's last show was Letters' first show. It was at a fest, Bottle Rocket Fest, in 2002.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I want to say maybe it was like 2003, 2004 that we kind of talked about it a little bit.
Now, was there any missing tracks that never got released that you guys held on to?
I don't.
Like, were you working on something new and like it just never fizzled out?
Yeah. We had 3. I think we had 3 songs. I think I can maybe find them. That like we had like 4-track recordings of them with no vocals on them. I want to say it was 3. I think we played them live, but we didn't record them, other than just like practice recording. Yeah. I remember it was like. So we started. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, we have those 3 songs, 4-track versions, and then I think that's when Danny like went to school, like when we went to like Texas, and then I think I tried to play, and so those songs were like on the edge of like being over the top, like as tech as we could get them, and as like as Matthew as we could get them.
Yeah.
Tried to play with like another drummer, and he kind of was like, I don't know. He was a friend of ours. It seemed like if he could have made it happen, but they could try to like keep crazy stuff. So like we kind of tried to like get some stuff.
So basically, Enkephalin ended and Letters started right away. Was that like you knew that was happening in that process? You knew kind of like Dan was going away. Was like Enkephalin kind of just had people doing different things, and that's kind of what made the band end, and then Letters start?
Well, I think so. Letters kind of like our first. So the way that Letters started, we had this band called Rocket Go Now that was like, it was like a Simpsons themed like screamo-y band, and it was me and Jeff, who played guitar in Enkephalin, and then Jenna, who now does vocals in Here's, and who played guitar and did vocals in Letters. We were all in that band. Jenna wrote a handful of songs for Rocket Go Now that were like a little bit too like heavy for what we were going for.
Yeah.
And so like she had brought those songs to practice, and everyone was like, "Ooh, those feel a little bit heavy." But I was like, I really like those songs. Let's just like start another band with those songs. And so that's how Letters started. Yeah. And it just kind of happened to be around the same time that like Dan was going to go to school. So it wasn't like Letters started because Enkephalin was ending. It just kind of worked out that way, I guess.
Yeah. And now, how long did Letters go on for?
I want to say so we started like 2002, and then Jen and I moved to Philly in like 2008. I think uh, um, I think by the time that we moved, Letters was still kind of a band, but like we were. I don't want to say we were slowing down, but I don't remember what was going on. I know that like Jenna and I had another band called Best Friends. That was a two-piece, and we started that band just to play Two-Piece Fest in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Letters was still a band. So I guess, and then we did play like one show in Philly after we had moved here in like 2008. So I guess you could kind of say that Letters was like 2002 to 2008.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But,
Now, what
right.
made you move from Michigan to Philadelphia? What was kind of the draw there?
Things were kind of rough in Michigan. Like I was like working at like a Pizza Hut. Like I had worked at a TV station, and it was like the recession had hit. There wasn't any work happening there. I was trying to get jobs at like post-production houses, and no one was hiring. Everyone was laying off. So like the economy was like really bad.
Yeah.
Jobs were really bad. The music scene wasn't doing so great. Like we were playing shows to like, like 5 people, or like the person who set up the show, and that's it kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like things were kind of rough musically. Like I had like a relationship fall apart. And so like all these things were just like not good in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so Letters did like a month-long tour, and we were like, let's pay attention to the places that we go, because we need to get the fuck out of Michigan.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like paid attention to the places that we played, and we really liked San Francisco, and we really liked Philly. We had played Philly a bunch. San Francisco was really far away and really expensive. And so we're like, well, we know a bunch of people in Philly. We really like Philly. Let's go there. And so Jen and I were doing that band, Best Friends. So we did a 2-month-long tour with Best Friends, and then just like kind of ended in Philly and stayed here.
Yeah. And the Philly bands that you're part of, that is like Burroughs started, and like Disappearances and Here's.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are all like Philly bands, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Those are all bands that were like born in Philly.
Now, were you doing multiple bands? I mean, was like Burroughs and Here's and I mean, were you in multiple bands, juggling bands at that time?
Yeah.
Or still now?
Yeah. I'm always usually in at least 2, I feel like. So it was, I remember I was also playing drums in this band called Dying. And I was like filling in for drums, but like they didn't have a drummer, so I was like filling in for no one. And then they weren't like actively looking for a new drummer after I was playing with them. So like while I was never like officially in that band, I was like in that band until the end of that band. And I remember playing a show where I was in like 3 of the bands that played that show.
Really?
So it was, so it was like Dying, Burroughs, and Hers all played, I think all back to back. And then I think there was one other band that played that show. But yeah, there is definitely overlap. And then I think after Dying, Disappearances started, and that was the guitarist and bassist of Dying, and then me playing drums, and then Joe, who was in a bunch of bands. He was in like Kill the Man Who Questions, and like War Emblem, and like a bunch of other bands. So that's when Disappearances started.
Nice. Now, did Dan move to Philly? I know he was in Burroughs with you.
Yeah.
Did he move to Philly as well?
He did, but it wasn't until, so we moved out here in 2008, and then I convinced him to move out here like 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
Because he was still working like at CVS that he worked in high school, and like he had like relationship stuff that like things weren't going great for him, and he came and visited, and I was like, dude, just move out here. Yeah. And he was hesitant, but Becky, who's my wife now, was my girlfriend at the time, and we got a place, and we're like, Dan, come move into this place. It's big enough where you can move in, but it's affordable enough that if you decide to not, we can still afford it. So we tried to make it like as like low pressure as we could.
Yeah.
But he ultimately, we drove out to Michigan to get him because we were like, no, you can't. Like, we didn't want to put pressure on him, but we were still like, dude, come on. Like, you got to get out of Michigan. Not a lot's happening. So we convinced him to come, and he lived with us for a year or so, and then, I mean, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Now, Burroughs, you released a demo and then a split, right? Is that the only thing that Burroughs did?
We had one more song that was released on a comp that was not on the split or the demo. Yeah. It was all through it like high.
Oh, sorry. The split was with Walter,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and that was on Hydrogen Man Records, and then that he did some kind of, Andrew did like a comp, and we put that one like unreleased song on there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Now, people that haven't heard that, you can go to like Bandcamp to listen to that, correct? But it's not on any other streaming service. It's just on Bandcamp, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was almost like I found it like a few years ago because I didn't know you and Dan were in that band, and then all of a sudden I put one and one together, and I was like, oh, no kidding. And it almost had like a low key like Phoenix Body sound, like really heavy, and like is that something that you always want to play? Is like really really heavy music and like brutal music? Because like I said, hats off to you for doing so many amazing, crushing like heavy bands that always sound different, but like still in the same vein of like the heaviness that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think just like really heavy stuff is just kind of what speaks to me. I mean, as cheesy as that sounds, like I think I've just always liked that. I mean, that band Best Friends that Jen and I did was like real like kind of poppy, like pop, like noodly pop punk kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was cool, and like we enjoyed that. But like we would play every once in a while, we'd play with a heavy band, and I'm just like, dude, like that's what gets me going.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just like what speaks to me is like heavy stuff. Like, I mean, Disappearances we're talking about, like we all have like our Spotify like end of the year stuff, and we were just sharing it with each other, and like Noelle, the singer, is like had a bunch of like pop stuff, and like I'm gonna sound like an idiot, like Doja Cat or whatever, like all that stuff, and that's cool, and like, but then my stuff was just all like super heavy stuff, and I'm like, I just like that's just what I like.
Yeah. Sometimes you see people that play heavy music all the time, but they don't listen to that stuff. They kind of listen to the total opposite because almost like they just get inundated with like too much heaviness. But you're one that like really likes to listen to that stuff as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I think I like a pretty wide array of stuff. Like I like a lot of like really like mellow, pretty stuff. I don't know what it is. There's some. It's like extremes or something like that. It's either like really like super arty and like beautiful, or just like super fucking heavy. And then there's like a little sliver in the middle of like Blink-182 kind of stuff that I like. I get like guilty pleasure stuff.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's either like super chaotic and heavy or like super like mellow and pretty.
Yeah. Now being a skateboarder and being into skateboarding as long as you have been, I mean, was hip hop ever like a part of your upbringing?
Yeah. And I think all the like the hip hop I listen to is like from 1993. You know what I mean? It's like like all the stuff I listen to, like I still listen to Tribe Called Quest all the time, and like Fushnikins and like Das Effects. Like it was all like the stuff that I listened to from old skate videos from like the early mid 90s.
That's the golden era of hip hop to me, anyways. That's the majority of what I still listen to now too. And the sad, just a couple days ago, True Goy, the Dove, Plug 2 from De La Soul passed away. So De La Soul was like huge for me, and I was crushed to hear that he passed away. So knowing that I think their whole catalog is finally getting released on streaming services on the 3rd of March. You know what I mean? And he's not going to be around to have that happen. So
Yeah.
it kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Um,
Yeah, like that, like Soul's Mischief.
Mm.
I really like that too.
Yeah.
Like I think I have like an Instagram video where I used like an old Souls of Mischief song, and it was just I think I even like the caption I think was even like mid-90s hip hop was the best or something like that. But
they're actually going on I think like a 30-year anniversary tour coming up in like maybe like a few weeks, and they're going all the way across the United States. They'll be up in like Cambridge, Massachusetts, near me, in the summer, I think. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to hit Philly because Philly's such a mecca of like the music scene. You know what I mean? And I was going to talk to you about like you moving to Philly and such a great scene there too. There's always been like a great hardcore scene in Philly and screamo scene. That's definitely part of why you kind of moved there too.
I think so. I think it wasn't as much of like, oh, this is a great scene. Well, I guess it kind of was. It was like we knew a bunch of people and we knew a bunch of bands, and we played Philly a bunch of times, and the shows have always been great.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of like not super like purposefully, we're like, oh, that's a great scene. We want to move towards that scene. It was just like we have a lot of good friends that are in good bands, and the shows are good.
Yeah.
So while it wasn't like directly like we need to move to that good scene, it was because it was a good scene. Yeah.
Now is Michigan still kind of like I don't really hear too much like popping off in Michigan for hardcore and screamo stuff. Is there's still like quite a good scene there, or do you know?
I'm not super familiar with what's going on in Michigan. Like when we go on tour, we play Detroit, and I mean, like we have some friends there who are in cool bands that I can't even remember the name of their bands right now. But it's not a lot of like heavy stuff, not a lot of like hardcore. I feel like is coming out of Michigan right now. Yeah. So I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't really heard too many bands popping off out of there lately that like I'm kind of new bands because I'm always looking for like new bands to listen to and stuff like that. I want to hear about Here's Collective and how you got into that band.
Yeah, so that was Jen and I were doing Best Friends, and she got like a drum programming program for her computer, and like wrote like the first Here's 7-inch, and like recorded it using this program, and like sent it to me, and I was like, this is awesome, like what is this? And she was just like, oh, like I got this program and just like wrote these songs real quick just to learn how to do it or whatever. And then I was like, we should like figure out a way to play these songs, because like I said, like the heavy stuff was kind of what really gets me going. And we were just doing like Best Friends, which was like fun but wasn't super heavy or anything like that. And then so we were trying to figure out like a way to like play those songs. And there was a band called 100 Year Hex. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No.
They're from Ohio. And so we were friends with them, and it was a two-piece. Our friend played guitar, and then they had a singer, and they like ran the drums through like a PA. And we're like, maybe we should do it like 100 Year Hex style. And so we're like, yeah, let's do that. And so that's kind of what started it. And it's hard to find people to play in bands these days.
Yeah.
So it was just like the two of us. We used like this program that Jenna bought and was like playing with, and then kind of the rest, I don't know, the rest is history, so to speak, or whatever.
Yeah. No, that band's you're still current, right? It's not over with, right? Or is it still? Is it?
Oh no, we're still going. We played last night. We have a record coming out March 24th, and we start a 2-month tour that same day.
Oh, sick. Now, are you coming up to New England at all on that tour?
I'm pretty sure. I'll send you like the tour dates.
Awesome.
I obviously don't have it memorized, but it's. I know that we're going up that way. Yeah.
Nice. Now, what bands are you in currently? I know you Everything and Nothing is kind of like you got the pieces together, Steve Roach and a few other people.
Yeah.
Like, what bands are you currently doing right now?
Yeah, so it's I play drums and Disappearances, and we're I don't know, we're finally like active again after the pandemic. It took a while to like do that, and so we have a bunch of shows coming up. We're working on this recording. Noel's going to be doing vocals today. So there's Disappearances, the Here's Collective, and then Everything and Nothing was like, those are just songs that I just like wrote and recorded just because I wanted to, and it didn't really have like the same like feel as hers. So I was like, okay. So like I had been just like writing those songs slowly for years, and then like finished recording it and like released it. And then I was like, I really want to play these songs with some people. So that's when I got Steve. Like I put like an Instagram thing up. I was like, does anyone want to play in this band? And like Steve responded, and then I asked Rosie from this band called Night Witch to do vocals, and she was like, yes. And then her partner John, who played guitar in Night Witch, was like, oh yeah, I could do bass. And I was like, hell yeah. So all of us are like playing now, and we're working towards being ready to play a show. But we're pretty close, but we haven't played a show yet.
Nice. I mean, that must feel good to you. I mean, basically because it was created by you, the music itself, and now it's kind of coming into fruition, and actually a show is going to be played. That must feel good to actually, almost get ready to play a show for something you created on your own. Yeah.
It's such a cool feeling when you like write and record a bunch of stuff, and it's like you've played all the parts, separate from each other, and you've recorded and you've kind of heard it all together, but to play it all and hear it all kind of happening live at the same time is a really cool feeling. So I was like really stoked. Like the first time all four of us got together and played was really cool.
Yeah. Now was it something almost better than what you imagined? Because like the different aspect, people bring in different things. Like obviously it's not the same vocals, but like was it something that was, you were like, whoa, this sounds like really good, because you have different players playing in it, in your music that you created?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit different. Like Steve and I played for like maybe a couple months before we got other people to like. We kept trying to find bass players. So John was like our third bass player, but we had never played with anyone.
Yeah.
So it was like months of just me and Steve, and then when we finally all got together, then that felt really cool. It always feels a little bit different. Like everyone like plays a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I've been like pretty used to hearing the songs with like my style on everything.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of an adjustment, but it still like felt really good. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was better or worse. It was just like a little bit different and still felt really good.
Yeah, just different elements that were coming into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Disappearances had two, like, you've already released two full LPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it Unsustainable and is it just like three? Is that the other album?
Yeah.
And you just said you're working on another. Is it another full length?
So we're working on recording. Like, I'm not sure if we're calling it.
Yeah.
So it's some covers. It's like four covers, and then like 4 songs that we're like re-releasing, but with like our current lineup. Our lineup kind of changes a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's with like our bassist BK, who was in, I don't know if you ever heard of Bitter Branches.
Yes. Oh, with Tim Singer.
Yeah. So he was playing bass in that, and he's like our newest addition. Then he's going to be on this new recording, but like so he kind of reworked some stuff. Yeah. And then Noel, who's our current singer and our newest singer, like rewrote some lyrics for some songs that were on those first 2 records where she wasn't on it. Yeah. So it's almost like it's like cover songs, and then we're almost like covering our own songs, but
yeah.
So it's kind of like a covers record. I don't know. We were just like, we need to put something out, and we're like writing songs to do another full week.
Yeah. Now can can you say what covers you're doing, or is it kind of like you don't want to say until it gets released?
I don't think it matters. I can tell you. I don't think I'm going to make anyone mad. I don't know. We've never like talked about it. We've never been like be hush hush about the songs that we're covering. Like we played them live. So whatever. Fuck it. I'll just tell you. So we're doing "Marry with Child," "Against Me," and then we're doing "Divorce" by Quicksand, and then a Civ song. Can't remember the name of the song. It's a Civ song, and then "McShred" by McRad.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so that song was like one of those like one of my like first introductions to punk, and that's why I wanted to cover that one. That was like, I don't know, were you a skater guy? I don't even know.
No, I was
Okay.
when you were saying you did sports, I was doing sports, and then I got out of high school, and then I basically just played like men's league basketball all the time and outdoor basketball like pickup games outside and stuff like that. So I basically just started doing basketball after I got out of high school, and it was almost like I'm 51, so I was almost into that like jockey looking straight edge look, but I wasn't really into that, you know, like I love that music, but I was going to screamo shows looking like that, you know what I mean? Like who's this like jock idiot in here? I wasn't wearing like, you know, black pants and white belts and like had a emo cut and stuff like that. I was kind of just looked like a jock, you know what I mean? But but still loved the music, you know what I mean? And played in bands. Like I played in bands for like 10 years, so
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I was
I was always like right. Yeah, I was always going to like screamo shows and stuff, but I just looked like a skater.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the reason why I was asking about the skating thing is because there's that song "McShred" is from an old like Bones Brigade video, and that was like one of like the first videos that like I rented from Blockbuster.
Yeah.
You know, and so like that was like one of my like, I think I like did the thing where like you hold a boombox up to like and hit record to get the music off the video. I don't know. I guess I assume that's probably like a skater thing. It's like you listen to the soundtrack and you're like, oh, this song is awesome. So you just and it was probably like early '90s thing.
Yeah.
It's like you take the boombox, hold it up to the speaker of the TV, and like record the song. So I'd have like tapes of just like songs from skate videos where you hear like skating in the background of it. But yeah, that song was like one of those songs that I did that too.
Yeah. No, I was always drawn to it. I mean, I used to buy Thrasher magazine all the time and watch those videos as well. It's just like I just would like see kids fall on concrete, and it was just like that was just not what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? So, but I was always in awe of it, and especially Thrasher magazine. I would always like look through it, read through it, and like the music section way back in the day would always catch my eye on like what bands they were talking about in Thrasher and stuff like that. So yeah, I was always drawn to it, definitely. I showed you the other day, I don't have the mini CD, which I'm like super bummed about, but like I said, I never got rid of this bad boy. one of the best splits like ever. Did you keep a lot of the stuff that you guys put out?
Yeah, I'm like going over to my record collection, which is pretty weak to be honest with you. But oh, that's not it. Oh, let's see, another fun thing. So here's my amp. We just played last night, and there's an old Enkephalin sticker on the back where it's spelled wrong, and then there's a sticker where it's spelled right.
Oh, I had that one.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, that one I think like Dan bought some like sticker paper for his printer.
Yeah.
And just like printed those out. Oh, I think I'm like all sideways and stuff. But yeah. Like I have a couple of the split 12 inches left, and then I tried to keep like one shirt for each design that we had.
Yeah.
And then I probably have like a bunch of like, I don't know, have like a filing cabinet with a bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah. Like old flyers and stuff like that.
Old flyers and like the masters and stuff like that for recording and stuff like that, and like a bunch of like CDRs with like text mixes and stuff on it.
Yeah, I'm so bummed that I like either lost the mini CD or I like somebody stole it or something like that, because that was like I think like there was a band called the Enkephalin and y'all that were the only ones that I had a mini CD of, and I don't have either one of them, which I'm like bummed out about. I'm trying to get back all my stuff from that I like got rid of, so I'm like a CD guy. Just started doing vinyl again too, because I had sold all my vinyl because I was like a poor, scrappy young man in my 20s and like needed money all the time and was like partying too much and just doing stupid shit. So now that I'm mature, I'm trying to get my stuff back and buying stuff back. But I always kept a bunch of CDs, and that's like, I know it sounds like I'm very old with CDs, but because everybody's doing vinyl and tapes now, so.
Yeah. One of my friends who like, I think the first like hardcore band that I was ever in. So my old friend Scott Wagner, we were both diabetics, and so our doctor like made us friends, and then we started skating together, and then started listening to hardcore together. And he had like this big like box of 7 inches, and like I still talk to Scott all the time, and he told me that he sold like this huge box of 7 inches for like $30 or something like that, and like I know that there are records in there that like you could have sold one of those records for like $100.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did you do that? But he's just like, I don't know, I didn't listen to him for 10 years. And I'm like, I mean, that's understandable, but still,
it's crazy. Like it's crazy. Like his Hero Gone CDs, I had all those CDs, and then I tried to get them back, and I'm looking on Discogs, and it's like they're like $80 for like a his Heroes Gone CD. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I remember like a big one that was in like Scott's collection was like Guyver 1 7-inch on white vinyl. Like I remember a friend of mine hunted down one for his friend for his birthday or something like that, and he got like a second press black vinyl for like $60 or $30. And like so like the original one on white vinyl, that was the one that I was just like, dude, you could have sold one.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you have things to do today. So usually at the end I do like a quick little rapid fire. So you ready for some rapid fire?
Sure.
My first question always is all-time favorite hardcore band from New England.
From New England? Oh boy.
So that's like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Vermont.
I mean, the first band that comes to mind is like Ampere. Would that count?
Yep, that counts. That's Western Massachusetts.
I mean, I haven't listened to them in a while, but I remember liking them.
Yeah, I mean, like Orchids from Orchid. A lot of people say Converge, Cave In, Drop Dead from Providence, Rhode Island.
I really like.
I hear a lot of
Converge. What it would like Majority Rule? Like, is that?
No, they're from I think they're from Virginia.
Yeah. They do a band called No Man Now, and we're like friends with them.
Yeah, No Man's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I love Converge. I still listen to Converge. I was listening to them like yesterday. Like I listen to them all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to them since like Jane Doe. So it's like, I guess you could say Converge. That makes sense.
Like I say, I hear that a lot. My second question: what was your first real hardcore show you attended? Not like a Battle of the Bands type of thing, like real hardcore show.
Yeah. Like straight up hardcore or like punk?
No, I would say straight up hardcore. Almost like even if it was your first experience with like moshing, obviously, because that's what mine was.
Yeah. Let me think. Yeah. I feel like because like so like the first like punk, so Suicide Machine. I went to see the Suicide Machines when I was like 14. Mm-hmm. Which they're like punk ska core or whatever you want to call it. And that was with like we skanked and we moshed to that.
Yeah.
And then it was a lot of like fests. I want to say like Michigan Fest was like a big thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that I had been to shows before I'd been to Michigan Fest.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of like smaller, like local shows. I remember like the first one. That's a long time ago. I can't remember like the absolute like first one.
Yeah.
Other than, like,
yeah. That's all
like,
right.
Yeah.
I'll keep going. What was the first show you played live?
For sure that I played live. Let's see. So, and I'm trying to remember it, like, because I know that the band that I played in a band called Deprive, and that was probably the first band that we played live. And I want to say it was at 612 Pearl Street, which is. All right, have you ever heard of like that band like Shag Van Club? It was like a Michigan band.
No.
It was or like Matt, who played drums in Jihad, played in like Wallside. It was Matt's brother Dave lived in a house in Laney, Michigan, and Deprived's first show at his house.
Oh, no kid.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was the first show. Like, I think 3 of us couldn't even drive yet.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was probably the first live show that I ever played.
Yeah, that's sick. My next question: all-time favorite show you performed at? For you,
Oh boy.
personally.
Yeah.
You can give me like a couple because you've been in like tons of bands. So
Yeah.
give me give me 2 of the most your favorite shows that you played.
So I think they're more I thought it was freaking out. So Hertz played a fest called, it was in like North Carolina. It's called like, shit, I'm gonna say the wrong. It was like Pansy Fest or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that tour, and that show was awesome. And that was like one of my favorite shows. It was like people from like the stage like all the way to the back of the venue, and everyone was like freaking the fuck out. And there were people like climbing on shit and jumping, and like I'm just like playing and getting like, we're like on the stage, but just like constantly getting like bumped into, and it was just like people being like, "Where's the songs?" and stuff like that. So that show was like one of my favorites. And then like Enkephalin's last show was like super awesome. It was kind of the same thing. I remember we were like, I think I sent you like some of the pictures from that last show.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like being like pushed up against my amp and like moving around, but just like bumping into people and just like going totally nuts. I think those are kind of like two of my like favorite shows.
Yeah. Nice. My next question: all-time favorite show you saw but didn't play, like all-time favorite hardcore like screamo show that you saw but weren't a part of playing. You kind of went to and saw.
Yeah, I remember like the first time I saw Dillinger in like '98, '99. Like they were touring on Calculating Infinity, and I remember it was like it was the tour where they started off with like the Sound 7. I don't know if people are like familiar with it.
Yeah.
But like they had that thing, and it was just kind of like that crazy sound clip, and then it started, and they just like exploded. I remember just like my face lighting up and being like, "This is fucking awesome!"
Yeah.
And so that show was like super memorable to me. That was at the Shelter in Detroit. And I loved that show. And then another show that was really awesome is I saw Iron Lung in the kitchen of a house in Philly.
Yeah.
And like they're so loud. I remember just like being like, it was like a living room that's kitchen of like a house, Philly.
Yeah.
And her just being like, and like with the dude, because he played through like 3 amps, like 3 half stack.
Wow.
And like that first note in the entire room shook like my my chest. I remember just getting like a stupid grin on my face, just being like, "This is fucking awesome."
Yeah.
And that band ruled too. So it's just like, I think that was another really big memorable.
Yeah, I saw Dillinger like 3 times, like right around that time, and